rich, luxurious, chocolatey ganache with only 3 ingredients. Hi everyone, welcome to Cake It To Me. Today we're making the most perfect chocolate frosting for any chocolate cake. And then we're adding it to layers of delicious velvety chocolate cake along with raspberry preserves for a dark chocolate raspberry cake. Good tasting ganache starts with really good chocolate, so make sure that you're using real chocolate, not compound chocolate or anything with additives. You want to look for labels that say that it's 100% real chocolate, and you can use any variety. Today I'll be using a mix of dark and semi-sweet. Now to get started, we're going to heat up our heavy cream. Because we're keeping things really simple, we're just going to heat up our heavy cream in the microwave in 30-second intervals until it's steaming hot. For me, this took a total of 4 minutes, but this will depend on your microwave strength. While the heavy cream is heating up, we can start adding our chocolate chips to a heat-proof bowl. Now you may hear different opinions about this, but I think making chocolate ganache is a really great way to clean out all different types of chocolate that you may have left in your fridge. It still has to be a really good quality of chocolate, but it can be very many different types. So that's what I'm doing here. To make ganache frosting, you can really make any amount as long as you use 2 parts chocolate to 1 part heavy whipping cream. Once your heavy cream is thoroughly hot and steaming, we can add it to the top of our chocolate chips. You want to pour the heavy cream right on top and make sure that all of the chocolate chips are submerged by shaking the bowl. Then you just want to let it be for about 5 minutes before you can start whisking the chocolate chips into the heavy cream. After the 5 minutes are up, you can use a whisk to gently move the chocolate chips around the hot heavy cream. What we're trying to do here is use the heat from the heavy cream to gently melt our chocolate chips. And we're going to do this slowly because we don't want to incorporate any air into the chocolate ganache. Even though it looks like I'm going fast here, it's because the video is sped up, and it really took me a total of about 5 minutes to make this entire mixture come together. To make sure that no air gets incorporated into the ganache, you can also use a spatula instead of a whisk. Remember, the key to ganache is being patient so that the heavy cream is able to fully melt the chocolate chips in your bowl. If for any reason your bowl becomes cold during this point, you can microwave it in 30-second intervals for up to 2 minutes until the mixture becomes slightly hot again. The last and final ingredient to make this ganache is a pinch of salt. This really opens up the flavor and balances the sweetness that's in the chocolate already. After using the whisk for a while, I'm going to switch to a rubber spatula and try to get some of the trapped air bubbles that may be stuck in the ganache, and just again to evenly combine everything in the bowl. This is the luxurious ganache you'll be rewarded with if you patiently work with the heavy cream and chocolate together. It is amazingly glossy, very rich in its flavor, and just extremely shiny as well. To get this ready to be our frosting for our cake, we're actually going to have to cool this down a little bit because it's still a little too runny to stick to the cake. So we're going to pop this into the fridge for about 15 minutes, and when you take it out, it's going to be thicker like you see here. This is still very runny, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in the fridge until we get it to the texture and consistency that we want. This is what the ganache looks like after another 15 minutes of refrigeration. You can see it's holding its shape a little bit better. It's not running as much anymore, and so it's perfect for frosting our cakes. To create this cake, I'm using my upgraded cake mix recipe. The recipe is included in another video, which is linked in the description below. I baked and froze down each one of my cake layers and also cut them in half. Since I'm making a dark chocolate raspberry cake, I'm using some raspberry jam in my filling. The tools that I'm using here are a cake turner and my favorite tool of all time, which is an acrylic cake board. This is a reusable cake board so that I don't have to keep using cardboard ones and throwing them away. I'm also using a little squeeze bottle with simple syrup to coat the cake layers in. So we're going to begin by taking the separated cake layers and adding one to our cake board. Then I'm going to pour on some simple syrup to help keep the cakes moist. Next up is a layer of the raspberry preserves. I'm taking a spoonful and just spreading it evenly across the first layer of cake. Then I'm adding a second layer and then putting on my ganache frosting on top of that. I did forget to coat this cake layer in my simple syrup, but normally I would do it. Then I'm just going to repeat the process with the rest of the cake layers, giving this cake a total of 6 cake layers and 5 layers of filling in between. Once the layers are put together, we can begin coating the sides of the cake with the chocolate ganache. We're going to put a thin layer of crumb coat all around this cake to trap all of the crumbs that are falling out. If at this point the ganache becomes difficult to spread, you can microwave it in 30-second intervals until it reaches a spreadable consistency again. You can see I had to microwave it here, and that just helped me very easily spread the ganache on all sides of the cake. After the cake is completely coated in the ganache, we're going to put it in the fridge for 15 to 20 minutes until it completely sets. Then, using a hot metal bench scraper, we can slowly try to smooth out the sides of the cake. I warmed my bench scraper by running it under very hot water and then drying it off with a paper towel. And because the metal bench scraper does get cold once in a while, you may have to run it under hot water several times until the cake has the smooth edges that you would like. To give the top of the cake a final shiny finish, I coated it in warmed ganache and then scraped it off with my angle spatula and my warmed metal bench scraper. After your cake is covered in the ganache, it's time for some decorations. Holding the bottom of my cake via the acrylic cake board, I just pressed on some beautiful pink, white, and red nonpareils to the bottom edge of the cake, giving it a beautiful rustic look. Then for the top of the cake, I used an extra large open star French piping tip. I placed it into a large piping bag, put some warm ganache in it, and piped it in all corners of the cake. Here is a final look at this stunning cake. I added some extra poofs on top using my French piping tip just to give it extra height. And then after slicing it up, I served it with some extra ganache sauce just to make it a little bit more decadent. This cake easily has to be one of my favorites out there. I love the combination of dark chocolate ganache and raspberries. I hope you give this recipe a try, and if you like it, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. I'll see you in the next video.